Like, share the video, people. I'm gonna sip me a sip of water. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this show on the road. What is going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of Niko House. And of course, as always, I'm your humble host, Niko House. We got a jam-packed show today. We got some information about why your police force might be treating you like you live in a Palestinian settlement. We're also going to talk about the Kente Cloth debacle. We're also going to talk about Biden using his campaign fundraising to not campaign, but instead lace the pockets of the DNC. I know, surprise. Okay. But first and foremost, and we're gonna talk about the whole idea of defunding the police. Is it the right decision? Does it work? Etc. Okay. But before we get into all that, we have a question from Q Bounty. For those of you who do not know, if I am not on YouTube, but yet you want to ask me a super chat question, you can go to qbounty.com/Niko. The link is in the description below, and I try my best to get to all the questions. I've been slacking over the last couple of weeks because we just had so much craziness going on, but I definitely wanted to answer this question from Alexander Mori because it is perfectly relevant to what we're discussing and what we've been discussing over the last couple of weeks, as Biden and Trump are seemingly pulling in closer to each other as far as polling is concerned, and because Trump is literally just killing the easiest opportunity to win the election. Like, it's crazy. He's been dodging bullets for 3 years, right? And even though he's been dodging bullets for 3 years, the easiest thing to get right, he's getting horribly wrong. So the question that was asked by Alexander Mori, who actually is our largest Q Bounty questioner today. So shout out to Alexander Mori. Appreciate you. He said this: please explain who is the better candidate to vote for between Donald Trump and Joe Biden in 2020. I know both are terrible, but if I would explain my reasoning to family and family members for either of them, or please give me detail. For either or. Please give me details as to why one or the other is the better option. Be as ruthless as possible, Niko 2024. Appreciate you. Thank you very much, man. So that's actually a great question. The truth is, both of them are horrible. Both of them, they're horrible. I would never sell my soul to vote for either of them. There is a very specific situation that I will vote for Donald Trump, and that is not happening. So no, is the moral of the story. Now, with that being said, if you want to explain why both of them are horrific, that there are no lesser of two evils, I mean, I can honestly make a good argument if I wanted to, like if I was in a debate, like as to why Trump is probably the lesser of two evils between Biden and Trump. But I would just, that's not going to happen with your family. You're going to have to convince them to stand their ground. And what the method I would use is the Socratic method. You have to figure out what issues are the most important to your family. And this is for everybody out there. If you're talking to friends, family, your kids, if they're young, college friends, etc. You have to figure out what drives them politically, what's important to them, and then use the Socratic method, which basically involves asking leading questions to help them come to their own conclusions. And when you start this process, you have to make sure you preface everything with, hey, don't mention the Democrats, do not mention Republicans. I'm gonna ask you a series of questions. You tell me if it's great or if it's horrid to the point where it's a deal breaker. You ask them about racism, right? And they'll probably say, oh, racism is bad. Well, I mean, hell, Trump has been blowing dog whistles to the point where his face is blue at this point. Okay. And then you go on. You say, well, wouldn't you say that, Trump has been probably blowing, using a lot of dog whistles, racial dog whistles, and it's bad for race, they're like, hell yeah. You know, if they're Democrat, they're like, hell yeah, of course, absolutely, yeah, for sure. We 100% agree. Oh, okay, so you would agree that that's probably like a deal breaker then? Yeah, of course. Well, Biden is a literal segregationist. Okay. If Biden were to run today and say that he does not want his kids to grow up in a racial jungle while pushing a segregationist policy, would you vote for him? They would probably say absolutely not. And you would say, okay, that's interesting because that's exactly what he said and that's exactly what he did. Okay. So both disqualified in that part. What do you say about police reform? Obviously, Trump's actions over the last couple of weeks disqualify him from any positives that he has already basically tried to tout when it comes to police reform, criminal justice reform, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, the man tear gassed people for a photo op. And they will probably say, we agree. Trump has been a horrible authoritarian when it comes to this issue specifically. Oh, okay. So how do you feel about the fact that, what would you say if somebody introduced the policies that have allowed police forces to run rampant like this, incentivizing them to specifically target black people, black communities, communities of color, poor communities? And the more police you hired, the more you got paid to do this. The more people you put in private prisons, the more you're funding your police force receive. And then, of course, the more private prisons you built, the more money your state received. Wouldn't you say that the person responsible for this probably isn't qualified to be president, especially as a leftist? Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah. Okay, well, that's exactly what Biden did. 100%. He coined it the Biden bill. And oh, by the way, he refused to apologize for it. Okay. So they're both disqualified from that perspective. I don't know if your family has any veterans, because with veterans, I know it can be, foreign policy conversations can be tricky because we literally lean seemingly one way or the other, and it's both to the extremes. But I would say almost all veterans disagree with unnecessary wars and unnecessary conflicts, right? Of course, you can debate the details of those conflicts, but most of them would say that they disagree with them. What I would then ask them is, wouldn't you agree that the Iraq war was wrong? Yeah, 100%. Wouldn't you agree that the Saudi-led genocide in Yemen is wrong? And trying to commandeer other countries' oil supplies is also wrong. Yeah, well, Donald Trump and Joe Biden are guilty of both of these things. Wouldn't you agree putting kids in cages is wrong? Well, yeah, of course. Donald Trump and Joe Biden are both guilty of those policies. So then they'll ask you, because this is inevitably, this is what it always comes down to. Well, what do you want me to do then? Gotta vote for somebody. Nobody said you have to vote for the president. That's not true. If you are so emotionally driven by the issues of today that you feel like you have to vote for somebody to stop that from happening, well, one, I would encourage you to look up your city council members, look up your commissioners, look up your city supervisors, look up your sheriff, look up your judges, look up your DAs, look at who's running in these respective positions and try to affect change there through voting, where you don't have to sell your soul. But then on top of that, if you are so concerned with what the outcome of the presidential election or any election will look like, and you are so emotionally driven by the issues of today, then get out and fight for those issues. There may be a time where there is a lesser of two evils argument that could usher in a greater era, because the domino effect that could come about if one person with, a few policies, a few good policies comes in and then sets that standard. We haven't experienced it yet. So what you're effectively doing, if you vote for Donald Trump and you disagree with him, or you vote for Biden and you vehemently disagree with him, what you are doing is rewarding horrific behavior. You're participating in what is known as the good old boys club, right? You're looking at 2 alleged rapists. You're looking at 1 racist, 1 literal segregationist. You're looking at 2 warmongers. I would say that there's maybe an argument that could be made that Trump is better on healthcare. Marginally. And honestly, he's kind of been better than Biden on the coronavirus issue, if I'm being honest. But assuming that there's never going to be another pandemic again, which is a dumb assumption, but let's just keep it within the boundaries. What you have to do is organize, activate, fight for causes and issues. You take command of your local elections. Get educated on your local officials, because all politics is local. If you do well enough, your local politics will become so good, right? The issues and the protection that you will have within your local government and municipality are so substantial that it could actually offset almost all of the negatives coming from the federal governments and from the federal branches. So that's what I would say as far as describing to them and helping them reach their own conclusion as to how Joe Biden and Donald Trump are just equally horrid candidates. They're horrid. I mean, I can't really fathom how we got to the, it was hard for me to fathom how we got to the Hillary Clinton situation, but that made more sense. Hillary Clinton had been running for like 6 years. She's also the first female presumptive nominee, and she's a white woman, and white feminism is a very powerful thing. Okay, but I was still puzzled how we got to that situation then. Now I'm even more puzzled, because both of them have been tripping up for the last 3, or well, Biden really for the last year, some change. Trump for the last 4 years. We've had people to be on the right side of history for a lot of these issues, and yet we end up with Joe Biden, Donald Trump. So stop rewarding that system. Stop rewarding a system that rewards corruption and bigotry and lying and conniving behavior and lying about your record and lying about your record, like in unnecessary ways. Like, it's crazy whenever I hear Trump talk about DACA. Like, he effectively didn't really do all that much with DACA. It's funny when I hear Dems like try to pretend like they fought hard for DACA. They didn't. It's funny when he tried to take credit for the kids in the cages, because he can't. Because that's Obama's thing. But once again, it's funny that Obama tried to pretend like the kids in the cages are not his problem, because it is. It's funny how they both try to pretend like they care about racism, institutional racism, and racism within police. They both don't care. And they lie. They lie in ways that sometimes don't even make sense. I'm not rewarding that, and you shouldn't either. So, appreciate that Q Bounty question, Alexander Maury. I hope that answer helped. So, I want to move on to a topic regarding the Minnesota Police Department, potentially Derek Chauvin, and really every major police department across the country. Have you ever noticed that for some reason our police departments, especially in metro areas and inner city areas, they operate like they're in a damn war zone, right? I mean, hell, they're even using tear gas, which is presumably already killed somebody, which is absolutely a war crime to use literally anywhere else but this country. Well, actually, technically, it is still a war crime. We tried to pass legislation to allow cops to use it, but that didn't make it not a war crime, because we already signed international laws, international treaties that said we can't use this. But I digress. We treat protests against government or institutional corruption as insurrection. And we punish that insurrection with violence. And then when that insurrection is punished with violence, the people like Barack Obama, the people like Donald Trump, the people like Joe Biden and the like, even hell, some of the local and state executives, they basically turn the other cheek, right? They turn a blind eye. The problem may be actually a lot simpler than what you think it is. LEJJ, thank you for the super chat. Abolish police unions. Trump is tanking his presidency. Trump keeps us awake. Yes, 100% agree. Aaron T, thank you very much for the super chat. Did you see Pac-Man try to convince Rogan to vote Biden when confronted on Biden's mental decline? He pivoted to his own theory of Trump's mental health. Yeah, that's basically what Pac-Man does. Is anybody surprised by that? I would say that Trump's in better mental health than Biden is. At least he remembers what he ate for breakfast. I mean, but I digress. The reason that your local police department may be operating like they're in a war zone is because they're trained, and obviously operating like they're racist, is because they're trained, potentially, by a police force that operates like they're in a war zone, and they're also known as being bleeding heart racist and occupationists. What do I mean by that? Well, I want to point to this article in the Morning Star that was released June 1st, 2020. Minnesota cops trained by Israeli forces in restraint techniques. Officers from the U.S. police force responsible for the killing of George Floyd received training in restraint techniques and anti-terror attacks from Israeli law enforcement officers. That ain't a good thing. Okay? Goes on to say that Mr. Floyd's death in custody last Monday, the latest in a succession of police killings in African Americans, has sparked continuing protests and rioting in U.S. cities. At least 100 Minnesota police officers attended a 2012 conference hosted by the Israeli consulate in Chicago. What a surprise. The second time such an event has been held. There they learned the violent techniques used by Israeli forces as they terrorized the occupied Palestinian territories under the guise of security operations. The so-called counterterrorism training conference in Minneapolis was jointly hosted by, guess who, people? None other than our very own FBI. Which means Barack Obama knew. Yeah. Not only did he know, he signed off on it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be hosted by a law enforcement group which falls under the executive branch. If y'all wonder why he's so bad on this issue, or why his comments have been so bad. So it goes on to say the Israeli Deputy Consul Shahar Irael claimed that the half-day session brought top-notch professionals from the Israeli police to share knowledge with their U.S. counterparts. In a chilling testimony, a Palestinian rights activist said that when he saw the image of Derek Chauvin's kneeling in Mr. Floyd's neck, she was reminded of the Israeli forces policing of the occupied territories. Now, some of you may be wondering, I mean, is it so bad to be trained, to physically be able to defend yourself? Well, I don't know if you all have heard of this particular martial art that the Israeli police forces and specifically IDF are trained to use. And it's actually a commonly used martial art. It's kind of like how Taekwondo is here in the States. But this was actually, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, created by Israel, and it's called Krav Maga. If you are not familiar with Krav Maga, the best description I can think of this particular martial art is kill them fast, kill them quick, kill them dead, make sure they're not alive after whatever you're done doing. That's basically the best description of Krav Maga I could think of. I'm gonna see, give me a sec. Let me see if I can find a more A less vulgar definition. But I'm pretty sure that's basically what they're gonna tell you. Oh no, I'm sorry, I forgot how accurate I can be sometimes. Krav Maga is a military self-defense and fighting system developed for the Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, and the Israeli Security Forces, the same ones who are training your police forces and specifically train the Minnesota Police Force. It is derived from a combination of techniques sourced from Aikido, boxing, wrestling, judo, and karate. Krav Maga is known to focus on real-world situations and its extreme efficiency. It was derived from street fighting experience of Hungarian-Israeli martial artist Emil Lichtenfeld, who made use of his training as a boxer and as a wrestler while defending Jewish quarter against fascist groups Bratislava in Czechoslovakia during the late 1930s. In late 1940s, following his migration to Israel, he began to provide lessons on combat training, and the people that he provided those lessons to became what we know today as the IDF. Now, why would you maybe not want the IDF and the Israeli police force helping your community police determining whether or not they should be applying such drastic physical measures to subdue somebody? So this was actually dug up by one of our researchers. When the U.S. Department of Justice published a report on August 10th that it documented widespread constitutional violations, discriminatory enforcement, and cultural retaliation within the Baltimore Police Department, there was a lot of outrage. All right. But what did not get a lot of attention at that time is that Baltimore's police department also received training from the Israeli police forces. Starting to see a pattern here. Baltimore police and law enforcement officials, along with hundreds of others from Florida, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, California, Arizona, New York, Massachusetts, North Carolina, Georgia, Washington State, as well as your friendly neighborhood DC Capitol Police, who literally hold no politician accountable, have all traveled to Israel for training. And if they didn't travel to Israel for training, thousands of others, of course, received training from Israeli officials here in the United States via one of the conferences that I just described to you. You know what's funny about Florida, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, which is the home of Philadelphia, California, Arizona, Tucson and Phoenix, New York, North Carolina, Georgia, and DC? They all are notable for having horrible police forces. All of them. They have at least 2 or 3 major cities in every one of those states that are notably horrid. And everybody knows it. And now, we might be getting some insight as to why. What's more disgusting about this is that these trips to Israel and the training that they receive here, a lot of it is funded by your taxpayer dollars. And I thought I was sick whenever you eventually you get the realization, like, hold up, the police department is largely funded by state taxes and federal taxes. And I pay my taxes, but they still trying to kill me. So am I paying a group to target me and beat the hell out of me and put me in jail? Well, something don't seem right there. But not only are we paying for it, we're paying for the training for them to do it. There are documented incidents of suppression, of course, of freedom of expression by the Israeli police, as many of you are familiar with. For instance, journalists covering protests have been assaulted or shot. Individuals are also arrested for social media posts or for gathering peacefully to discuss the Israeli occupation of Palestine. Does that sound familiar to you all? Journalists being shot or assaulted, suppression of expression, individuals arrested for social media posts. That sounds eerily similar to what we're dealing with right now, no? Another concern with the BPD, which is the Baltimore Police Department, is the systemic deficiencies in accountability structures. The lack of accountability for human rights violations by Israeli police forces and the environment of impunity that exists has obviously had a long-standing, has been a long-standing concern with other human rights organizations. So you're starting to see a lot of parallels between how a lot of these metropolitan police departments are behaving very similarly to the Israeli group that has been occupying Palestine for all this time. It's not a coincidence, people, but it does get worse. It does get worse. Are y'all familiar with the Ethiopian thing going on in Israel that's been going on for quite some time? I don't know how to say this. Racism and colorism is not limited to America. Okay. Y'all should know this. It's not even limited to Central and South America or Canada, Australia, like Western Europe. No. You'll hear oftentimes people like, I don't know, Dave Packman, for example, will say, I'm not white. I'm an Argentinian Jew. I can't be racist. Can't you tell from my blue eyes and blonde hair that I'm one of you? Yes. You will hear that often. But that's, I don't know how to say this without cussing. So I'll just say it's bullshit. It's bullshit. And the fact that you will hear educated people make this argument is disgusting. The discrimination that Jewish people face, because a lot of them do face prejudice, obviously, is not the same thing as experiencing racism. It is not the same thing. Even more so, and once again, I say this all the time, the Jewish community who experienced some of the historic prejudices and discrimination in history, even being Jewish doesn't get better when you're black. Because in Israel, Ethiopians are treated like trash. They're trampled upon. I mean, there has literally been proof, ladies and gentlemen, that they were making up stories about Ethiopian refugees being rapists. And Ethiopian refugees causing this disproportionate amount of crime that it turned out they were not actually causing. No other group, other than Palestinians, of course, have faced such backlash from trying to migrate to their quote-unquote homeland of Israel than Ethiopians, who, of course, happen to be the black community in that area. Now, in the 2015 protests, and this is in BBC, dozens of police and protesters have been hurt after a protest by Ethiopian Israelis against the alleged police brutality turned violent in Tel Aviv. Starting to see the parallels once again. Tensions have risen after a video emerged last week showing two policemen beating an Ethiopian soldier. Just like those times where soldiers and police officers who are black get beat up. Like your uniform doesn't really protect you from being black or the institutional racism that comes within these institutions. One demonstrator told Israel's Channel 10 television channel, Our parents were humiliated for years. We are not prepared to wait any longer to be recognized as equal citizens. It may take a few months, but it will happen. Damn, a few months. Wow, that was a pretty bold time frame. I need to introduce you all to something called Black life outside of Africa, ladies and gentlemen, because the damn sure was not going to take no 10 months or a few months. I'm sure they know that now. But essentially, Ethiopians, even though Israel they swear that we're the democracy, those Palestinians, they're the ones who are anti-LGBTQ, even though Israel is very similar to the United States, where they were like that for the longest time also. We're the democracy. We welcome all Jewish people. This is a homeland. We don't dislike Palestinians because they're Palestinian. We dislike them because they're attacking us because we're Jewish. But if you're Jewish and you're peaceful, we'll never be violent towards you. We can't be racist. We're Jewish. Yeah, except for that's not the case, clearly. Even being an Israeli Jew gets worse when you're black. Yeah. So that was 2015. There was similar protests in 2012 because Israeli landlords were refusing to rent out their properties to Ethiopian Jews. There was another outcry in Israel following the police shooting of a young black man. And it's been compared to the 2014's Black Lives Matter demonstrations, because that's when a lot of that started in the United States cities, because of the same reason. The parallels are, quote unquote, a fair comparison to what is happening in the United States, said Mazal Bissawer, the spokeswoman for the Association of Ethiopian Jews, an Ethiopian Israeli advocacy organization based in Jerusalem. And according to local reports, the police officer involved in the Tikha shooting is likely to be charged with negligent homicide. Biswar, who believes there was no justification for the shooting, says the community now only waits for the finalization of the investigation. But generally speaking, people, Ethiopian Jews are treated by their police forces the same way black people are treated by the police forces. Obviously, Palestinians, who come in all hues, but generally darker as compared to their Ashkenazi Jewish counterparts, they are treated basically the same way that black communities are treated. If you are wondering why in your community the police feel like they're occupying the streets, like it isn't, like, I mean, that's what we're basically seeing, right? And with the curfews, with the army coming in, with the police being completely and totally militarized, with chemical weapons, and I mean, we've seen videos with snipers on the roof, waiting for something to pop. I mean, even before that, during the drug wars, with Baltimore, with Ferguson, even with Standing Rock, doesn't it feel like you're being occupied? Like whoever trained this particular policing group taught them how to conduct an occupation, not how to protect and serve the community. And that's because that's exactly what happened. You were the racist institution of police forcing, or policing, excuse me. Well, it's some police forcing. That's true, but policing, to be grammatically correct. That racist institution is being trained in combatives from a group whose martial art is literally kill them as quickly as possible, show no restraint. That same race policing institution is learning how to de-escalate situations from a group that de-escalates situations by killing 50 protesters with sniper shots. That same group for doing nothing but advocating for Palestinian rights. That's the same Israeli police force. That same racist police institution is being trained by the same people who are contributing to the discrimination, the violence against the Ethiopian minority in Israel. Once again, the Ethiopians just happen to be black. Sure, it's a coincidence too, right? White supremacy isn't real. Institutional racism isn't real. Everybody treated equally. I don't see color. Yeah, I heard it all. If you ever wanted to know what systemic racism looks like, what institutional racism looks like, this is the damn definition of what it looks like. When your tax dollars funds a racist police force that gets training from a racist police force on techniques used to kill your people because of the color of your skin by people who have made it, by a police force and policing institution in Israel that has made it very clear they will absolutely judge you by the color of your skin. Fuck the content of your character. This is exactly what people are referring to when they are referring to institutional racism. How much more institutional can you get? I'm serious. How much more institutional can you get? That's about the damn... There is almost no other way to be that... The FBI there. Police forces from thousands of police groups are also in attendance. They're learning how to kill people. That's Krav Maga is. My roommate used to take it. They're learning how to kill people. Learning how to occupy streets. And you're paying for it. On two sides because we give Israel all this damn money. Bruh. And the FBI is literally setting it up. The FBI that we know is literally occupied by the KKK. That somehow that story, even though it was in a mainstream media source, literally gets no coverage. That is what systemic racism looks like. That is what institutional racism looks like. That is why, until we completely, and it can't just be the police departments. Like, oh my God, there's so much accountability that has to take place. So much dismantling that has to take place. That's why it's called systemic, because you have to get it at the root in order to see that change. That's why your cops are seemingly trained to occupy your streets and kill people of color and arrest people of color and beat the hell out of people of color and react violently to peaceful protesters and tear gas journalists and arrest peaceful protesters and then blame the protesters. Isn't that exactly what Israel does? Yes, it is. Moving on. Similar topic, but we're going to switch it up a little bit. Hopefully, provide some hope in this bleak world that we're seemingly living in. I'm sure a lot of you have heard the phrase, the one-liner, defund the police. Been a lot of back and forth about how stupid that is, and I think that perhaps there could be a better phrase used to describe what people are asking for. But I understand the marketability of the idea of defunding the police. But you all know me. I know how this channel gets down. I'm just really not for the one-liners. It's just how I am. Because I understand that people are a little bit more nuanced than that. But nonetheless, there have been a lot of disingenuous attacks and gaslighting when people say defund the police. There has been. Like, come on, bro. Let's be real. There has been. Even if you're maybe a little bit conservative leaning. You know, there's some of the takes that people, oh my God, if we defund the police, then we're going to have immediate privatization of police forces. Bro, first of all, basically the police force is privatized. It already is. So that's a dumb argument. And why you would go straight to the privatization of police forces? They're like, oh, because guess what's going to happen? Rich people are going to have police forces in their own communities. You mean like they already have at their private schools, like they already have in their private neighborhoods, like they already have at their private clubs, like they already have at their private events? I mean, they already have privatized police forces. Okay. Also, I mean, I cannot stress this enough. Black people almost never call the cops. We just handle our own business. And most people, I think, actually feel like this. Unless their name is Karen or Brad. Bro. So there have been these disingenuous takes on the idea of defunding police. But let me explain what the gist of defunding the police is. It means defunding the police as they are currently structured. What do I mean by that? Right now, we know that police get kickbacks from putting people in prison. Police get kickbacks from meeting quotas for police parking tickets, for speeding tickets, etc., etc. We know police get kickbacks police departments get kickbacks for hiring police to put people in private prison. I know that in Fort Lauderdale, a cop told me if we find a certain amount of drugs on you, we get bonuses. So they're incentivized to pull as many people over as humanly possible, if you even look like a caricature or stereotype. Police are funded with military equipment. That's a form of funding, right? They're not given the money, but they're given the equipment, which is very expensive and paid for by our tax dollars. I just did a whole segment explaining to you all, we funded their training by the Israeli Defense Force. So defunding the police and disbanding the police in their current structure is not an insane notion. In fact, you could almost argue that until we do, there will be constant and regular human rights violations, and there will be almost zero accountability. Now, some of you will try and reach, and I know, because y'all dislocate y'all shoulder trying to reach for a way to defend an authoritarian police state. Some of you people, kind of sickening, not gonna lie to you. But there might be a reason to point out that y'all are full of it. Y'all have actually never done your research on this issue. Why? Because almost every single instance of what we advocate for as a progressive movement, as a populist movement, has an instance in the country where it worked, but because it worked, it was never discussed again. And in this particular case, the instance happened in Camden, New Jersey. So let's look at this article from January 10th, 2018. That is literally titled, "What Happened to Crime in Camden?" There was a particularly deadly year in that city in 1995, and Camden's Cathedral of Immaculate Conception began illuminating one candle for each homicide victim. In 2012, the year ended with 67 candles, a rate of about 87 murders per 100,000 residents, which ranked Camden 5th nationwide. It's pretty horrific. Now, fast forward to 2018. Just 22 candles were lit. The city's murder rate fell to its lowest since 1987. The number of annual killings has been in decline since 2012, and so have robberies, aggravated assaults, violent crimes, property crimes, non-fatal shootings. Well, what could have led to this? So what's happening in the city, which for many years had been deemed among the most dangerous in America? Thompson, who took the helm of Camden Police Force in 2008, says the biggest factor may have been the changes in structure of the police department itself. In 2013, the Camden Police Department was disbanded. I repeat, in 2013, ladies and gentlemen, the Camden Police Department was disbanded. I know you may not have heard about it because you didn't hear Ben Shapiro complain about it. You didn't hear a bunch of fake outrage from conservatives. Oh my God, we disband police. There's anarchy. There's anarchy. And this is in a Republican state, people. So I'll repeat one more again. In 2013, while Barack Obama was militarizing police across the country, the Camden Police Department decided, you know what, that's not working. Let's try something new. And they disbanded it. They reimagined it and was born again as the Camden County Police Department with more officers at lower pay and a strategic shift forward towards community policing. That meant focusing on rebuilding trust between the community and their officers. For us to make the neighborhood look and feel the way everyone wanted it to, it wasn't going to be achieved by having police officers with a helmet and a shotgun standing around the corner, Thompson said. Now he wants his officers to identify more with being the Peace Corps than the Special Forces. A conversation with Thompson about community policing is likely to involve many such catchy maxims. Destabilized communities, he told me, need guardians, not warriors. This is a police chief. He explained the back to the future paradox, using technology wisely, but to pair it with regular old bobbies on the street. He stressed the idea that public safety is about access to social services, economic rejuvenation, good schools, not just cops. Nothing stops bullets like a job. It's policing turned poetry, and his officers too have internalized it in their training. The old police mantra was "make it home safely," Camden police officer Irael Bagby told New York Times in April. Now we're being taught not only should we make it home safely, but so should the victims and the suspects. That same police force has taken their own time, many of them, most of them, outside of their 9 to 5 to then go and volunteer in the community that they work in. That's what defunding and disbanding means. That is what it could look like. This is very similar to how militias were ran. You know, that militia in the Second Amendment that most conservatives literally have been dropping the ball on. Because it's funny because every conservative is, we believe in the Constitution, the Second Amendment. And this would have been an amazing opportunity for conservatives to say, you know what? This is why the Second Amendment was put in place, not just to protect the right for people to defend themselves and to bear arms, but also to remember that the best way to protect and serve, and the best people to protect and serve the community are from the community, which is what militias were. They were not random police and random police chiefs and private prisons from outside where people made a bunch of profit on you taking, basically taking advantage of the fact that you didn't belong in that community. So you're disconnected from all the trouble that's caused there and all the pain you caused there. What is being described in this article is very, very similar to how militias used to work. You take away tear gas, take away riot gear. Bro, why do we even still have SWAT and riot gear? Think about that, people. Think about that. Why do we even have a SWAT team? The SWAT team was probably brought about during the war on drugs. Don't quote me on that. But we've grown accustomed to associating them with what we see in Hollywood. Oh, we need the SWAT teams. Why? Because somebody's going to break into a bank one day. There's going to be a Mexican standoff. Right? There's going to be that one moment where your family is tied up. I don't know what the hell you're into or your family's tied up. But there's going to be that one moment where your family's tied up. And you got to have a SWAT team come in and save them. That's what we're taught. Right? We're taught that every single situation is reminiscent of the cocaine epidemic in Miami in the 90s and early 2000s. And actually the early 80s and 70s too. That like you gotta always have a SWAT team ready to just pop up on you, pop, pop, pop. And that's how we save the day. But no, a lot of the militarization all came from problems and solutions. Problems caused by the government with solutions by the government, where the government and the people who cause the problems are all profiting from our plight. So when you are hearing, matter of fact, I'm gonna link this article. When we repost it, I'll link the article in the description. I just shared it in the group chat. When you are hearing people try and gaslight you on what disbanding the police looks like in Minneapolis, please point them to this article. Do not let them gaslight you. Do not let them pretend like we've never seen this before. Because we have seen what defunding looks like. We have seen what disbanding looks like. It doesn't mean completely rid the country or a city of policing. It means disband them in their current form with all their corruption. Hold people accountable who need to be held accountable. Bring somebody in from the community to lead the charge. Take the community's input in leading that charge. Fund them appropriately, but make sure that when you are doing so that you're bringing in people from the community. And if they're in neighborhoods of color, primarily black people, then you bring in black people and let them work with and talk to and protect the people that they've known for their entire lives, because you're more likely to listen to them. It's like that. Is it perfect? No, but what is? But like that police chief said, there's economic problems. There are problems that go beyond our personal race, right? That can be mitigated, like in our communities, that could be mitigated by being able to avoid selling drugs, being able to avoid getting involved with shady people, and then because you're going to be targeted already. So to mitigate the opportunity for you to even be in that position, we have solutions readily available right now. And I'm glad that that police chief in Camden, New Jersey identified the core of what a lot of these problems are coming from. The black community did not just wake up getting targeted. You can't target, especially in today's world, you can't target a community like that without giving good reason. You have to set up the dominoes to be knocked down, and that's exactly what happened. So now we have to start sending those dominoes back up. So it's possible, and we have already got an example of what defunding and disbanding looks like in Camden, New Jersey, not that long ago. All right, let's get to the fun stuff. I'm in super chat. My bad. What we got? Chef Momo, thank you very much for super chat. Neoliberals question Trump's mental health weekly. Yeah, they do, which is kind of ironic. I've been saying that for a while now. They question Trump's mental health, or they did for like the last 3 to 4 years, and then they offer up Biden and pretend like nothing is wrong, which is crazy. Let's move on to the next topic. Y'all. Oh, we got one more from Mark as well. Oh, here it goes. The U.S. has a $12 billion trade deficit with Israel. Bro, that doesn't make any damn sense. I mean, I believe it 100%. That don't make no damn sense. How the hell we got a trade deficit with a country where we give them more money than that every 3-4 years? We're going to have a trade deficit with a country that we're keeping alive. Ain't that some bull? That's such a United States problem. We create our own problems, and then we don't know how to solve them, or at least we pretend like we don't. What we got? Make sure y'all like this video. Make sure y'all share it. We're gonna move on to the next topic. Oh man, this is the fun topic. It's the fun one, y'all. Kente Cloth can be found at your local flea market. If you just watched Black Panther, it'll probably appear on your Instagram timeline. And you should never ever wear it around your neck if you're not. I'm not gonna say you should never wear it around your neck if you're not black, but don't ever wear it to try and show solidarity with black people. Okay? You should just never do that. Like, unless you're black, of course. And even then, you need to tread softly. Okay? So I'm sure that most of you all heard, but we're gonna watch it again anyway because of how hilarious it is. Nancy Pelosi and her team of ragtag social justice warriors decided to show solidarity with black people and how we've been treated. They were going to take a knee while wearing Kente Cloth. And I want you all to see just how damn ridiculous this looks. Go ahead and pull that up for me.
All right, welcome back, everyone. You're looking at live pictures there of Democrats on Capitol Hill taking a knee. We believe it's going to last for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. That is the duration of the time Officer Derek Chauvin had his knee on the neck of George Floyd in Minneapolis. You see there both Senator Chuck Schumer, Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, and other members of Congress taking a knee. We're going to keep an eye on that for you as well as that news conference gets underway. They're expected to introduce new sweeping legislation for police reforms in this country.
Go ahead, switch it back. What the are they posing for the cover of the Democrats' new mixtape, Straight Outta Crackers? Like, is it called Straight Outta Crackers, or like Get Rich and make sure others die trying? Like, what the I did not know that Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi were about to drop a new mixtape, y'all. I promise you. Like, that was, y'all ever seen Get Him to the Greek, where Russell Brand's whole career got tanked? You know, the character in the movie got tanked because he released that song called African Child. And that was satirical though, right? Everybody knew that it was a joke because, duh, if you release a song like that, everybody is gonna like not take you seriously. That's why this joke is so hilarious, because it's so obvious that you shouldn't do something like this. Except clearly nobody in the Democratic Party, at least in the House of Representatives and the Senate, watched Get Him to the Greek, because they literally just participated in the political version of African Child. These people look like the Black Panthers from the country of Wakanda. Can I do to make sure I never have to look at this shit again? Okay? What the hell were they thinking? When I saw this yesterday, I thought I would be calm by today. I thought I'd be like, man, I'm gonna go to sleep on this. I'm gonna watch Black Panther. Okay. I'm gonna calm myself down. When I do the show tomorrow, I'm gonna be all right. Cause it's actually worse now. I'm actually more pissed than I was yesterday. Y'all, all we asked for was comprehensive reform and to not be racist. That's it. And here's where there's so much irony. I don't even know if y'all caught this in the visual of the Congress people kneeling, wearing Kente cloth. Let's not talk about the fact that the whole kneeling thing is like 3 years old and all of them were basically silent when Kaepernick was getting dragged through the mud. And even Obama said, think about the military, Kaepernick. Y'all remember that? Yeah, that happened. But I digress. Even as they're kneeling in African garb that is mostly associated with Ghana, Nancy Pelosi, the white woman, and Chuck Schumer, the white man, are standing in the front while all of the black people, the black Congress people, are standing behind, or kneeling, behind them in Kente Cloth. Even when they're trying to pretend to not be racist, they're still accidentally racist. And what's so bad is that the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus, is so indoctrinated. They're so conditioned to just bow down, literally, to the white establishment and the white patriarchy, that they didn't even see the problem with the fact that you are kneeling in Kente cloth, and y'all thought it was smart to put the white people up front in the Kente cloth while we're addressing an issue of black inequity. Are you kidding me? You can't make this stuff up, bro. You can't make this stuff up. Now, this was a political stunt, clearly, and you would hope that this would come with some legislation. And they said they're going to introduce some legislation. Now, of course, there's no number for this legislation, but they've given us a description as to what it's going to look like. Be warned, you're not going to like it. So it says that the package put together by the Congressional Black Caucus, the House, oh yeah, black people, you already know how that's looking. Boy, what? The Congressional Black Caucus might as well be the damn KKK. I'm not sure which one has hurt the black community more over the last 30 years. I'm pretty sure the CBC has actually hurt black people and set black people back more than the KKK did in the last 30 years. They have been putting on a cape for the racists at the top of the Democratic Party, protecting them at every single turn and making sure we don't get shit and that we're happy with it. So you know if the CBC is in charge of legislation, it ain't gonna be pretty. Colin Radix Carter, thank you very much for the super chat. My cousin is Ghanaian, and he said that different patterns on the cloth have different messages. So the cloth has been bastardized by the West, so it's ridiculous for them to wear them. I believe that. I mean, what's new with the kings and queens of cultural appropriation? So, it was put together by the CBC, the House Judiciary Committee, and Kamala Harris and Cory Booker, two people who we all associate with being just exemplary when it comes to police reform. Especially Kamala. Especially Kamala. That's what everybody wanted to hear so they can sleep easy at night. That Kamala put the most black people, or excuse me, black men in jail than anybody in California's history. Harris is actually going to be in charge of police reform legislation. That gives everybody confidence, right? It says that it would require a federal uniform. Excuse me. It also would require federal uniformed police officers to wear body cameras. Also included is an anti-lynching measure. Okay, you know what? I'm so tired of hearing about the anti-lynching shit. Murder is already illegal. So let's just Prosecute the people who are already committing murders. Hold accountable the cops that are already doing the shit. That like it's already laws in place for this type of shit. Stop pandering to me with the law you cannot enforce. Because that's basically what we're seeing. It says it would also create a national police misconduct registry, incentivize state and local, key word there, state and local governments to conduct racial bias training for officers, and set restrictions on the transfer of military grade equipment to local law. Restrictions? What the fuck? What you mean restrictions? The restriction should be they're restricted from having military grade equipment. There should be, what other restrictions do you need? There should be one. You don't get none. Restrictions. But do you know this? I mean, it's already a bad legislation, right? But do you notice something? You notice they don't ask to ban private prisons. I noticed you didn't know. You notice they didn't say to demilitarize the police completely. No, of course not. They said they're incentivizing people. They're incentivizing people to take racial bias training. Ladies and gentlemen, there's two problems with that. How exactly is the federal government going to provide any oversight for any of that training? Oh, the police chiefs who are already corrupt and the police unions who are still not being disbanded are going to tell the truth? They're going to tell you? No, they're not. Because when do corrupt... It's funny because, I mean, this is probably the one time that I would probably make a conservative argument like that. Since when do criminals report on their own crime? Hey, everybody, just want to let you guys know, just killed another black person today. Thought I only beat him senseless. Turned out he's dead. I need you to take some of my funding away from my police department because my inherent racial bias training did not help me at all. I am still racist as hell. Please come arrest me. That's not how that works. But what it does provide, however, and y'all gonna love this part, y'all are about to see free money handed to police departments by Democrats. What do you think incentivize means? You mean like how police forces were incentivized to hire more cops because states were incentivized to put more people in private prisons, and all of them were incentivized by money? The Violence Against Women's Act was a money grab. Literally, we are being pitched the idea. We are being pitched the idea that we are going to hold our police force accountable by giving them more money to tell on themselves. And y'all voting Democrat? Y'all voting Democrat? I'm not voting Democrat. I'm not voting for them. Like I said, everybody, if the CBC is involved, the Congressional Black Caucus, if Kamala's involved, then of course it was going to be amazing legislation. Because everybody knows that cops take down other cops. That's what they're known for. That's why there's so many good cops. Like, you see so many examples of it. Because good cops are like everywhere, and you always see videos of them holding other cops accountable. That's why they had Kamala work on this legislation. Duh. What they are preparing to do, which is why they won't release the text, ladies and gentlemen, for the same reason that they refuse to release the text for the CARES Act. Because they are literally about to screw you and tell you that they're helping you. What the hell do you mean limit? Like, or not limit, excuse me, put restrictions on some military equipment to police. What the hell? What you mean put restrictions? Restrict the shit. Stop it. Tear gas is a chemical weapon that we're literally not allowed to use on another country. We're not allowed to use tear gas on terrorist organizations, people. Did you know that? Because it could cause permanent damage or maybe kill you. But these just with some restrictions. And we're incentivizing it. So you're not gonna make a requirement for implicit racial bias training, but you're gonna incentivize them in the hopes that they do the training. So all I gotta do is sign a piece of paper, right? Send it back to my state government. They send it to my federal government, and my police department gets more money. But hey, at least they took a knee in some Kente Cloth. Right? Makes everything all better. Bruh, we didn't ask for anything. Like, can we just hold corrupt police officers accountable? And can I not be killed for being black in the wrong place at the wrong time? Those are the only things I ask for. It's the only things we ask for. And they want to take a knee in Kente Cloth while giving police departments more money and claiming it's for our own good. Where have we heard that line before? Let's move on to the COVID-19 virus. Switch it up a little bit. I don't know if y'all are aware of this, but there's been a lot of back and forth over the legitimacy of hydroxychloroquine. And the other day, I covered a story where, and this is reported by Reuters, that hydroxychloroquine was actually being banned, and 3 EU nations are being considered being banned in other EU nations, and actually being considered being banned in the United States as well, because there was just this super in-depth study. This super in-depth study. It was like really complex. Okay, it did this super deep dive, took years to do. Nah, I'm just kidding. It was a 4-day study that was funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And they decided after 4 days, hydroxychloroquine is just simply too dangerous to give to anybody, because you have an increased likelihood of 2 things, and this is what they said, not me, of irregular heartbeats and death if you take hydroxychloroquine. That's what they said. No in between. Irregular heartbeats and death. And this super comprehensive study that was done in 4 days was used by many countries to dictate how they address the situation of COVID and hydroxychloroquine. Now, in my video, I said, listen, y'all, I'm not a witch doctor. I said, there's somebody who has my last name that played a doctor on television one time. That doesn't make me an expert, you know? I've never even seen the show. But nonetheless, I do know when someone is rubbing my face in shit and trying to tell me that it's roses. I do know that Bill Clinton and his damn foundation has no standing whatsoever to do research on a drug that many people have been using to treat COVID, when they are literally trying to fund a solution that they owe a profit from. And there is absolutely no reason why any country should be making decisions based off of research that was conducted over the course of 4 days. 4 days. And that research, once again, was funded by the very people who have been adamantly trying to make sure nobody uses hydroxychloroquine. Like I said, not a witch doctor. I've never had to use hydroxychloroquine. But considering that our country has been ignoring literally every single possible solution, including some that have come from Cuba, China, and even Russia as of late, I'm a little bit skeptical on taking anything they say seriously as far as treating this virus is concerned. Because they will sit there and tell us to our damn face that, oh, we can have a vaccine done in a couple of months. Yeah, for sure. Yep, too easy. I know we've literally never been able to come up with a vaccine for this. But in the next couple of months, we're good. That same one will tell us after a 4-day trial, oh, this solution that many countries are using and many world leaders are taking preventatively for COVID, yeah, you'll die if you take it. Don't even pay attention to the fact that I'm like directly invested in vaccines being created to treat this drug, and it's generic, so we can't make any money off of it and we can't monopolize it. So like, if you use this, like, we can't get rich. Like, don't pay attention to that. Just know that I put my heart and soul to this 4 days of research. Okay? I put my heart and soul into this 4 days of research, and you'll die if you take hydroxychloroquine. Well, it turns out, ladies and gentlemen, that was a lie. And Niko, I know some of you are probably a little bit tired of saying it or hearing this, but Niko was right. I know. Surprise, surprise. Hey, common sense isn't all that common, but I know how to read black and white letters on pieces of paper and figure out when someone's lying to me. It's a special gift that I have called a bullshit detector. Can you please show everybody that article? So, the tweet was by Dr. MD DR period. Went to school for too long, is probably in too much damn debt. Mr. Blue check mark, Harvard University. So y'all don't think that it's Niko, okay? He's somebody with some pretty titles and shit, and he's a white guy with a nice smile. I know y'all like that type of stuff when you're checking the veracity of claims. I get it. It's cool. He said, in an important moment for science and data transparency, the Lancet announces that its 96,000 observational study on hydroxychloroquine has been retracted. It's a sad story, but an important one. Oh yeah, ladies and gentlemen. That's once again Mr. Jeremy Faust, MD, Doctor, DR period, went to school for too long, it probably is in way too much debt, and is a Harvard surgeon. He said this, not me. Now, what does the article say? It's retraction. Hydroxychloroquine, or chloroquine without the macrolide, for treatment of COVID-19. Multinational registry analysis. Okay. After publication of our Lancet article, several concerns were raised with respect to the veracity of the data and analysis conducted by Surgisphere Corporation and its founder and our co-author, Sapan Desai, in our publication. So I want to translate that for y'all. After the publication of our article in Lancet, several concerns were raised, and many people called bullshit. That's basically what that says. I mean, the names are kind of important too, but that's basically what happened. A bunch of MDs, doctors, went to school for too long and in too much debt. A lot of them were like, this don't make no sense. You know, like I said, I understand Niko is not a doctor, so if you need somebody else to check the veracity, get it, I got it. Go on to say, we launched an independent third-party peer review of Surgisphere with the consent of Sapan Desai to evaluate the origination of the database elements to confirm the completeness of the database and to replicate the analysis presented in the paper. Because if you didn't know, people, and I cannot stress this enough, if you took 6th grade science, one of the most important parts of the scientific method is the replication process. In other words, you need to be able to produce that result again and again. And the only way you can produce the result again and again and be taken seriously is to replicate the process again and again and again and again and again. Okay? So in other words, this information and the data needs to be readily available for any peer to peer review your ass. Okay. Following? Cool. It says, our independent peer reviewers informed us that Certisphere would not transfer the full data set, client contracts, and the full ISO audit to their servers. For analysis, is such transfer would violate the client agreements and confidentiality requirements, which I'm sure you couldn't have just worked around by contacting them and letting them know that you were going to do this. Also, you would probably put that in the contract that for research purposes that you might give other people access, given the severity of the issue. I mean, this is kind of a global thing, right? You might want to make sure other people can check the veracity of your claim, especially if you're saying that the two most likely outcomes will be somebody getting, irregular heartbeats and dying. Like, those are your two outcomes. You should make sure other people can verify that. But I digress. As such, our reviewers were not able to conduct an independent and private peer review, and therefore notified us of their withdrawal from the peer review process. We always aspire to perform our research in accordance with the highest ethical and professional guidelines. Really? Really? That's why you took a study from someone who wouldn't even provide you the data to replicate the process, who only conducted the study over the course of 4 days? 4 days? That was funded by someone who has a direct conflict of interest with the outcome of the study? So you hold yourself to the highest standards. And I have been waiting, ladies and gentlemen, for quite some time to show you all how academia can be manipulated. Just like every other field, people, money corrupts all. Every other field. Whether it's science, whether it's climate change, whether it's war, whether it's policing, whether it's racism. Money corrupts all efforts if necessary. This is another example of that. So they had to retract the entire paper and say, we all enter this collaboration to continue in good faith and at a time of great need during COVID-19 pandemic. We deeply apologize to you, the editors, and the journal readership for any embarrassment or inconvenience that this may have caused. I just want y'all to know, whoever did that was slick. You see how they did that? They say, we want to apologize to you and the editors who are supposed to be editing and checking the veracity of the claims that we put in this and making sure that we don't put anything that's false or illegitimate in this. The editors who clearly did not do their job. But, we want to apologize to them because it's not like their approval of this study led to it being printed in this research journal. It's not like that. They think they slick. But here we are, people. So I was right. That study was bullshit. And there is still no consensus on whether or not hydroxychloroquine is actually a bad treatment for COVID-19 the way that the mainstream media has tried to pretend it is. And a study that was done in 4 days, once again, that was conducted by a group that was funded by Bill Gates, who has a vested interest in making sure that hydroxychloroquine is not used worldwide. That study was then used by multiple countries in the European Union to ban the use of hydroxychloroquine, which would, of course, inevitably mean limiting the access to hydroxychloroquine, which means people with things like rheumatoid arthritis, which is the most common use of hydroxychloroquine now, would start experiencing shortages, which, by the way, is already a thing. Countries made decisions about the well-being of their people based on a 4-day study that has been retracted think about that shit, people. That is obscene. That is criminal. Who's running the zoo? What the hell? Why is nobody talking about this? Is this not a big, does nobody consider this a big deal? Am I the only one that thinks it's a big deal? Because I feel like this is a pretty damn big deal. A study that multiple countries use to demonize and condemn hydroxychloroquine has been retracted because they refuse to provide the data to replicate the study, to prove the veracity of the study. Do you, bro, what the, this is like something out of a movie. Also, how many times has this happened in the past? I'm not saying the retraction part. I mean, basing governmental decisions off of false data that was purposely falsified because of who's paying for the studies. This is what corruption in academia looks like, if you're curious. And it's rampant. It's not only involving COVID. So, how about your conspiracy theory that, motherfuckers? Learn how to read. And maybe your ass wouldn't be refusing drugs that may actually save your damn life. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But what I do know, it ain't gonna kill you. The president's taking it. World leaders taking it. Maybe you should try the shit, see how it works out. It's like $3. Go get the shit. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Like I said, somebody just played one on TV with my last name. I'm not saying it makes me qualified, but it makes me more qualified than most of you because y'all don't have somebody on TV playing a doctor with your last name. So there. Okay? How about that? Now, to move on with to move on to the last. Did I miss any super chats? We're good? Okay. Cool. Good stuff. All right, people. Last topic. Y'all gonna love this one. This one was found by my man's Robbie. Y'all know Robbie Yeager, one of our researchers at the MCSC Network, also the co-host of the MCSC Uncensored podcast. Guess what Robbie found out, y'all? Robbie found out that Biden actually has not been campaigning with your money. Not that any of you donated to him. Because if any of you donated to him, I generally, I don't like shaming people away from my channel because I feel like that we always try to talk about something that you can learn. But if you donated to Joe Biden and you on this damn super group chat right now, I'm gonna need you to exit the group chat and go rethink your life and come back tomorrow. All these problems, all these issues you could fund in the world, and your ass decide you want to fund the segregationist campaign, we got problems, okay? But I digress. I don't think any of y'all in that category. I hope not. Guess what Robbie found out? This is for today. Biden campaign unveils how the Biden Victory Fund, we just love those. We just love victory funds, huh? We love them. We always know that turns out well. The Biden Victory Fund breaks down donations per their website. For individuals and PACs, the first 5,600 to 10,000 goes to Joe Biden. The next 50,000 to 30,000 goes to the DNC. And I remember I brought this point up. Actually, what last week? I think it was something regarding Tony White Closer. Thank you very much for the super chat. I was saying like, yo, why are they raising so much money? What are they doing? They didn't even campaign in the primary. They're not going from city to city. They're clearly not hiring tech experts or social media experts for that matter. Who are you paying and where is the money going to for you to be raising this much? And I said, it's probably going to the DNC. That he's actually not trying to win, that the DNC isn't trying to win either. that they're merely conducting another fundraiser. Sometimes I know that Democrats confuse fundraising with the presidential elections. See, but that's the thing, you don't know your own party, bro. It's basically just a fundraiser for Democrats now. They don't actually care about winning. Clearly, because they had, like, I don't know, at least 4 candidates who were shoo-ins to beat Trump, and none of them got anywhere near as far as they should have. And that was by the hands of the DNC. So what does this website say? The first 5,600 to 10,000 from the personal or multi-candidate committee will be allocated to Biden for president, with the first 2,800 to 5,000 designated for the primary, and the 2,800 to 5,000 for the general election. Then the next 50,000 to 30,000 from a person or a PAC will be allocated to the DNC. The next 150,000 to 75,000 will be split equally amongst Democratic state parties. Does this sound familiar, ladies and gentlemen? This is the money laundering scheme that we have come to know as the Hillary Victory Fund. They're literally doing the exact same thing again. Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Michigan, Minnesota, North Carolina, New England, Nebraska, New Hampshire, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, Virginia, and Wisconsin. The next 110,000 to 55,000 will be split equally amongst Democratic parties in Alabama, Delaware, Kansas, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, New York, Vermont, and West Virginia. Any additional funds will be allocated to the DNC, subject to applicable contribution limits. Super PACs don't really have a limit. Any contributor may designate his or her contribution for a particular participant by contacting Smolsky SJ at dnc.org. In other words, if you want to funnel your money into a party through a super PAC so that it doesn't get counted as a donation necessarily to Biden, so you don't reach your limit, which, by the way, once again, if he's getting the money through super PACs, I can donate as much as I want to a super PAC. And I can make sure, he literally admits, I can make sure that money is then laundered into state parties and state candidates. This is literally the exact same money laundering scheme. The exact same one. They're laughing in our faces. They're laughing at the Democratic Party, who continues to fund them, or the people who continue to donate to the Democratic Party, as they literally launder your money. I told y'all he was never campaigning. He was never campaigning. He didn't even campaign in the primary. What made y'all think he was going to campaign in the general? I mean, come on. So once again, here it is. The Hillary Victory Fund Part 2. Let's see how quick they can blow through $1 billion. Because that's basically what's about to happen. They're about to blow through $1 billion once again to take L after L after L after loss after L after loss after loss after L after L after defeat after loss. Because they're not trying to win. They're just trying to get paid. Thank you, LEJJ, for super chat. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for tuning into that live stream segment of Mikasa Sukasa. Consider becoming a Patreon subscriber by donating to us on Patreon. The link is in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe if you are here. You can follow us on Rockfin, ROKFIN.com/Niko. The link is in the description as well. Like I said, if you have a super chat that you want to ask when I'm not here, but have an entire video dedicated to your super chat question, go to qbounty.com/Niko. The link to that is also in the description below. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. If you like that segment of Mikasa Sukasa, don't forget to like the video and smash that subscribe button. Want access to members only live streams, behind the scenes footage, and other premium content? Well, you can endorse us on Rockman Premium, become a patron through Patreon, or you can sign up for the MCSC Premium membership through YouTube. All the links are in the description below. But hey, more than anything else,
More than anything else,
More than anything else,
More than anything else.
always remember,
Find your balance.
find your balance.
find your balance.
Find your balance. Find your balance.
Find your balance. Find your balance.
Always remember, more than anything else, find your balance.
peace.